Greetings, salutations, Mr. Cross here from Tech 3D. Apologies if there's any jankiness to this video. It's been a long time since I fired up the gear and none of it worked, so I've kind of shuffled it, and it doesn't matter. Anyway, right, so this is my Autodesk University recap. A hands up, who came back from Vegas with the lurgy? I was absolutely dreadful in the week after Vegas, like horrible. I don't know what the hell I brought back, but I was not good. So as much as I wanted to have done this video earlier than now, I couldn't. Physically sort of incapable of doing it. But I'm on the mend now. I'm still a bit like struggling, but yeah, we need to get through this. This is not scripted. Normally for this sort of a video, I would write a script up and get all the points that I need to talk about all done and laid out, make sure I don't forget. I haven't got time for that. I just want to get this out right. So if I'm all over the place, that's why. But yeah, look, so Autodesk University Las Vegas was last week. And if you're not sure why I'm making this, like what I'm doing, right, so we need to rewind 12 months just to give you a bit of context on why I'm doing this. So last year, Autodesk University, which is Autodesk's global user conference, was in New Orleans. It's the first time in about 23 years-ish, maybe once or twice they might have faked it. I know they've had the local, it doesn't matter. It's always been in Vegas, let's just put it that way. And they went to New Orleans last year for reasons. Andrew had his reasons, right? It was the first event since the pandemic, and it was an absolute disaster last year. And I documented that in full in my Autodesk Fire Festival video, which basically ripped through, or I think 50% of the views on that video are probably internal Autodesk views. But overall, the event was an absolute shambles. It was horrible. There was food shortages, food shitages. There was armed robberies on guests, right? There was security incidents all over the place. People didn't feel safe. It was awful. All documented in that video, though. So, long story short, Autodesk apologized. Very shortly afterwards, came out and said, we're going back to Vegas for 1 year only, which was this year. That was last week. That event's happened. And yeah, it's only fair, given how much I ripped into last year's event, that I sort of summarise how I felt about this one, if it's either the same or different. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And do a couple of other things, just sort of throw into the mix, spice things up. I say a couple of other things. One major thing, the Formula One was on at the same time, which I said in the lead up to Autodesk University is going to be, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but it's going to make Vegas feel very different, and it absolutely did make Vegas feel very different. Vegas was a racetrack by the time we got there, as fully expected. But to be fair, there's very few cities in the world who can handle an influx of 300,000 people in such a short space of time, and all the logistics, all the supply chain interruption that comes along with having such a huge event in such a short space of time. And nail it, and Vegas nailed it, absolutely. This is just my interpretation of how I saw things firsthand. Also eavesdropping on a couple of conversations, just asking a few people around how they feel events going, all that kind of stuff. But generally, Vegas handled it like an absolute champ. As much as it wasn't ideal to have AU on at the same time as Vegas, it didn't suffer for it, in all honesty. And that goes for the rest of Autodesk University. If you're dialing in hoping for a Mr. Cross sort of rage rant because AU's been another disaster, I'm afraid it's not going to happen. Full credit to the Autodesk events management team. They did an insanely good job this year under what I would imagine were very difficult circumstances, with having a lot of their usual supply chain partners probably either juggling AU and the Formula One, or being completely unavailable due to the Formula One. So it wasn't lost on me how difficult that would have been, and they did a great job. Vegas, for Autodesk, is a tried and tested formula for the most part. It kind of should be a well-oiled machine at this point, but that doesn't take away from how difficult this year would have been, given it's the first year back and the Formula One was on. So they did a great job. Everything was well managed. The food, perfect, and that goes hand in hand with the staff at the Venetian. Very, very, very well organized. Just, you could walk into the main canteen area, which was huge, and they just had everything under control. They were just guiding people down to the right place where they needed to be. No queues, nothing. You were just straight in. How many people were there? It was a great job, and the food was good. Nothing to complain about. Yeah, nothing to complain about at all. For the event itself, though, for Autodesk University as a whole, so it starts on. I'll give you a bit of a recap on what happened, but not a full review. Right, you'll see the videos coming out on the Autodesk University YouTube channel as to what was actually said. But AU started on the Monday this year as opposed to the Tuesday, so we started a day earlier. Now that absolutely killed me. Oh, the jet lag this year was real. Oh, mate, I was demolished. I don't know what, but yeah. So start on Monday, and as per normal, you got the keynote speech on Monday, which is Andrew opening up at Autodesk University and sort of delivering his main message for the year. And this year it was dominated by Autodesk AI. So Autodesk are riding that AI gravy train, I guess, trying to keep up with other tech companies who are already well on board. Autodesk are already well on board, or at least they'll have you believe. They've got various initiatives going already in the background. They claim to have around 10 years experience / history already with using AI, although it's a fine line, isn't it? AI and machine learning. So the likes of Autodesk's generative design inside Fusion 360, is that AI? I don't think that is AI. I think that's machine learning, and they're not the same thing. But it doesn't matter. Autodesk they're getting on board with this, and based on what was said in the keynote, a lot of high level executive talk, right? A lot of wishy-washy, big, grandiose statements about customer efficiencies, and we're going to change the way you work in the cloud. We're going to deliver this, deliver that, blah, blah, blah. A lot of we're going to. But normally that would switch me off. But what we also saw this year was genuine, real, tangible progress on what was talked about in last year's keynote, which was the Fusion Forma Flow industry clouds. So we saw how Autodesk Flow for media entertainment is now almost it's not in full swing as such, but it's being used in industry, and you can see how that's helping people, collaborate with assets and make greater efficiencies within certain workflows. We saw that with the manufacturing. We saw a couple of examples with manufacturing with Fusion as well, and how that had picked up and developed. AEC, though, it wasn't lost on many people the fact that there were no examples at all about how AEC is being used, because I don't think it's that far ahead yet. So that was a bit disappointing to some in the AEC world, that media and entertainment and manufacturing got examples, camera time, right, customer references on how they're being used, nothing for AEC, which was a bit disappointing for them. But still, though, we saw progress. We saw the next sort of step in that industry cloud vision that Autodesk have. And so when I kind of hear now of we're going to do this, we're going to do that, I feel better about hearing it, because I can see how they've actually followed up on the word this time around. Whereas in previous years, they'd announced something in a keynote speech, and then the next year it's like forgotten about and it's gone. It's pretty much been sent to the graveyard. So yeah, that was good. So the keynote speech went down really well. AI is going to be a big part of the future for pretty much all tech companies. If you're not on that train, then you're pretty much going to get left at the station. So it's good that they're doing that. What it means for actual products, right? We don't really know at this point. And it's the same for the industry clouds, right? It was pitched originally as potentially the end of the desktop products. There was an implication there from what I picked up on anyway. But it seems to be they're moving away from that into more of a look. The industry clouds are going to complement the desktop products now. It's going to be this offloading type of a situation where you can offload jobs to the industry clouds and exchange assets and data between yourselves and your supply chain or whatever using the industry clouds. But ultimately, it's the desktop products that are always going to be there underpinning that. That's kind of what it sounded like, but who knows? Overall, the classes, I went to a couple of them, and they were, again, very well organized. Because it's Vegas, it's an exceptionally well-designed conference center. All the classrooms are very close together, spacious, and yeah, the equipment didn't seem to fail for the few classes that I was in. Everything just seemed to go well. So I was very impressed with the classes, pleased with the classes that I went to. Your mileage may vary. I don't know, but I was generally quite fine with it. Tuesday, we had Ryan Reynolds on stage with Steve Blum, and this is something that I kind of I did mock it in the lead up to Autodesk University, as in like, well, what the heck's Ryan Reynolds doing there? And to be fair, I actually stand by that. I still think, given the Formula One was in town, there was all kinds of people who could have been a headlining guest for Autodesk University. A team principal, right? Frederick Vasseur, Christian Horner, Toto Wolff, James Vowles, right? All these big team principals, or a head of engineering, Adrian Newey, for God's sake, right? I don't know. He's the chief aerodynamicist for Red Bull. He's one of the most famous, most successful race car designers in the history of the world ever. He was in the city, and he's like the absolute god of design and engineering for the automotive world. But we had Ryan Reynolds, right? So I still stand by the fact that it was an odd choice. However, really frustrated, actually. I didn't miss it. I turned up 10 minutes early, thinking there's not going to be that much of it. The room was full. Then they had to divert us all upstairs to an overflow room where we basically watched him on the telly. He was downstairs in the main hall. We were upstairs watching him on telly. So I was really upset with that. But it was my own fault for not getting down there sooner. But Ryan Reynolds was actually exceptionally entertaining. He was really, really good. Handled it very well. Didn't really pick up on the fact that he maybe did or didn't feel a bit awkward. Sat in front of 10,000 or however many thousands of people were in front of him, designers, engineers, and he's really got that much in common with them. I know he's got a marketing company, right? I know he's worked with Autodesk, but really he is a screenwriter. He's an actor. He's not an engineer or a designer. But he did really well. He was very funny, very interesting, very entertaining, and I was quite engaged watching him. In some ways developed a bit of a man crush on him. I was just like, wow, yeah, I get it. I get it, But yeah, it was good. It was a good talk. At the end of his hour, I think he was on stage with Steve Blum for. He then woven into the conversation why he was there, the initiatives that he's working with Autodesk on, but ultimately, really, it was a weak link, but it was a link nonetheless. Still felt like it could have been someone more appropriate, but either way, it was a good headlining act to have on stage. Ryan Reynolds, right? His names don't really get much bigger than his at the moment. So that was Tuesday, and then from then on in, I personally missed almost all the other events. The design manufacturing keynote, I missed that because I just got pulled from pillar to post personally, which I'm not even the least bit sad about. Talked to a lot of people. Unfortunately, couldn't talk to a lot of people as well. As there's a couple of guys that you know who you are, right? Who were there ready to talk to me, but I was kind of being talked at by someone else, and I was. There's only so much I can do, and then of course the guys walked off, and I'm like, awkward. But yeah, so I missed a lot of the other keynotes, but to be honest, I was getting engrossed in what I couldn't do last year in New Orleans, which was network. That was the whole point. That's why I go. I went for the Formula One, really. But once I was at EU and I was in there, I got really into it. And just bumping into all the people who I couldn't and didn't bump into last year because the place was so big, was so fragmented. Not in Vegas, everyone's there. You can guarantee you can walk up and down the Sands Expo halls and you'll bump into and see the same people over and over again, even though there's thousands of people there. And I love that about Vegas. So yeah, we had a couple of good events as well with the Autodesk Expert Elite Group. Not many turned up, which was a bit disappointing. I'm sure they've got their reasons, but not many EEs turned up out of the group. But those who did, we had a great time. We went to I think it was the Tuesday night. We went to a bar in the Grand Canal shops inside the Venetian called -5. It's basically a freezer. The entire bar is an actual freezer. You get served drinks inside a cup that is actually an ice block with a hole carved out of it, and you've got to obviously go into the bar wearing coat, gloves, and a big Russian hat thing. It's a freezer. So that was a good night. That was really fun. Following on from that, we had a couple of other events, nothing really worth mentioning in this video. Then we obviously had the final party on the Wednesday night, and Jesus Christ, seriously, like this is kind of when you realize what the hell went wrong last year, because take a look at what I'm showing you on screen right now. Fucking sky drones, mate. Sky drones. Where was the person who did this? Where were they last year, right? What were they doing last year? Last year we had this sort of rugby club style, like, I don't know, wedding hall, brightly lit thing with a couple of tins in the middle of it, right, of food, and some guy with a saxophone on a bare stage, right? That was kind of what we had last year. This year, fucking sky drones, mate. We also had like electricity in the sky, this electricity ball buzzing out the tune to Michael Jackson, right? It was just, oh, what a party. Absolutely quality. Exactly what you expect from Autodesk in Vegas. Now, it wasn't quite the Link Promenade, which we would normally have reserved out. I guess that's not possible this year, given the interruptions and the disruptions from the Formula One. But I think we had it at the Palm, the Palm Hotel, and it was incredible. Live music, drink, food, the lot, entertainment. It was outstanding for an end party. So overall, the full week, I was absolutely delighted with Autodesk University. So chuffed it was back in Vegas. Absolutely devastated it's not going to be in Vegas next year, apparently, which personally I still think is a mistake, because last year in New Orleans was the first time Autodesk went, we'll try something different, we'll go somewhere new. Look how that worked out. Vegas is tried and tested. It's a proven formula. It's not perfectly brand friendly, but just look at how many people had a good time. You could tell on the very first day, on the Sunday, when you had the registration party, like the opening drinks bit where people just networked, and right, it's the sort of pre-AU event. That on its own felt more lively and energetic than the entirety of AU last year. It was already better at that point. Everybody there loved it. Everybody had a great time. And I personally feel like going away from Vegas and trying somewhere else next year, even if it isn't New Orleans, even if it's somewhere else. I don't know. I'm not going to name a place. I might know it. I don't know, but might. If I get it right, then I'm just not going to say. But you're going somewhere new. You're potentially opening up avenues for more problems similar to last year, supply chain issues and fragmentation issues, and not having the same kind of atmosphere. It's all about the atmosphere is a huge part of AU, and you run the risk of losing that by going somewhere else. But not my call. They're going to make that decision themselves, and you roll with the punches on that one. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, overall, I am absolutely delighted with AU. Do not regret going at all. Absolutely loved it. Autodesk, great job. Well done. You turned it around. Last year was a disaster, but you picked yourselves up and you delivered an outstanding event this year. It went very, very well. Everybody I spoke to in and around the event said the same. They were having a great time, learning exactly what they wanted to learn, enjoying it, and just soaking in the atmosphere, and it was brilliant. Yes, I went to the Formula One. Ask me how that went. I got one ticket for the first day, because I was flying out on Friday, so I got a ticket for Thursday. And if you follow Formula One, well, you know how that worked out, didn't you? Yeah, I got to see 8 minutes of cars. 8 minutes until I stayed the whole night as well. I stayed until 1:30 in the morning. So I was at the track from 6 in the evening till 1:30 in the morning the next day, hoping to see the next session. And that's when the FIA kicked everybody out and decided to run the session anyway. I was angry. This is an understatement. But at least I got to see 8 minutes of cars, which is something. And then, of course, they blocked the track using big barriers and sort of cloth and darkened sheets and stuff, so you couldn't see the cars from the Vegas Strip. Very petty, very insulting to the locals, in my opinion. This has got nothing to do with AU, by the way. This is just Formula One. But yeah, very insulting to the locals who've put up with a lot of disruption, and they couldn't even see the track or the cars themselves without paying money to actually sit in the stands, which you couldn't do anyway because they closed them on the first 2 days. Also, the expo hall was brilliant as well. There was some I need to mention the F1 in schools area where they had it was sort of a collaboration with Fusion 360 team, where they got people to design, not really design, but use Fusion 360 configurations to build like a race car based on a parts list, and then you put it together, you catalog it, you collect your parts, you put them all together, and then you put the finished car onto a track with a gas cylinder in it, like races it at the end. It was absolutely brilliant, really well done. And that's an F1 in schools initiative where they're doing that, or something similar, around various schools. It gets students engaged in design and critical thinking around and that kind of stuff. And obviously, it's good for Autodesk products as well. So that was a really, really good thing that I saw on the Expo 4. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and thanks again to Michael as well, who gave us these Autodesk chocolates. There was a story behind these chocolates, something about how something CNC'd about them. Mate, it was a long day by that point. I do appreciate them. I just forgot the story behind them. But thank you very much to Michael, who I think was in the Alias team, for passing those chocolates over. Very, 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 very much appreciated. And yeah, like that will do. That'll do for now. Like, I'm knackered. My throat is really struggling, and I'm gonna go and get a drink of water. So hopefully I'll see you next year in AU, wherever that may be. Well done again, Autodesk. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Toodles.